As many of you know, a few months ago I created the DougScore, which is the rating system I use for all of the cars that I test and review. I didn't expect it to be so popular. You people seem to love it, or at least you love arguing with me about it and telling me that I'm right or that I'm wrong or that I'm a complete idiot. But the biggest request I've gotten since I created the DougScore by far is, can you go back and re-rate cars that you'd already done videos with and give them a DougScore? So today I'm doing just that. I'm giving DougScores to 22 cars I've already tested from previous videos. Before I dive into the DougScores, two quick notes. One is that I've chosen these 22 cars because they're the most important cars I've already tested. I couldn't go back and give a DougScore to every single car I've already reviewed, so I chose these 22 because they're the most interesting, the most exciting, the ones with the most views, the most popular, and in some cases, the most ridiculous. Now, number two is that I've made a few tweaks to the DougScore system. For example, I have changed the name of the luxury category to comfort because that better sums up what it actually is, and also I've re-rated a few cars here and there, little tweaks, in order to make sure that the DougScore is completely consistent. Anyway, I'm not going to go car by car here. I don't think you need me to tell you why every car got every score in every category. Instead, I'm going to go category by category. I'm going to talk especially about the highlights, why some cars did really well, why some cars did really badly, and why some cars may have done better or worse than how you expected them to do. And with that in mind, it's time for the DougScore. Starting as usual with the weekend categories and styling, here's where the 22 cars I'm ranking have fallen. Getting a 10 in styling is really hard. In fact, only one car has gotten a 10 before this, and that was the Ferrari F40. But to me, the 2005 Ford GT and the Ferrari F355 also deserve this number. The other high scores probably won't surprise you too much, and yes, I think the Ferrari 488 is more attractive than the Lamborghini Huracan. Pay attention to the 488 and the Huracan throughout this video, by the way, because it's a tight race. As for the lower scores, well, I don't think I really have to explain those. The Trabant and the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet are truly ugly automobiles, and I think we can all agree that the Yugo ain't exactly much better. I still haven't given out a 1 for styling, simply because that number is reserved for the truly heinous among us, like the SsangYong Rodius. Yes, that's a real car. Next up is acceleration, and as you may know, I do acceleration based on an objective metric using 0 to 60 times that's listed on my website, which is linked below. 3 cars did 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, which earned them a 10 out of 10. The Lamborghini Huracan, the Aventador SV, and the new Ford GT. A lot of other cars came close, and a lot of other cars did very poorly, although it's worth noting that a 1 out of 10 simply means over 7 seconds 0 to 60, which isn't that bad for a normal car. But since the DougScore is biased towards performance cars, that kind of acceleration won't get you very far here. Also, it's worth noting that a 1 is the lowest score you can get, even if you're the Trabant, which I don't even think can go 60. By the way, before I hear the complaints from the Tesla people, remember that I DougScore the specific car I drove, and the Model X I reviewed wasn't the P100D, hence it's 6 in acceleration. Next, we move on to handling. No car before has ever gotten a 10 in handling, but that changes now. 3 cars got a perfect score out of this group of 22. The Lamborghini Huracan has maybe the most precise steering I've ever felt, and it easily earns a 10. The new Ford GT basically feels like a race car for the road, and it too earns a 10. And the Carrera GT is just so sweet and predictable. It gets a perfect 10 also. Other high scores were the Ferrari 488 Spider and the 2005 Ford GT. At the bottom of the list, 3 cars got a 1. The usual Trabant, of course, alongside the horrible Ferret armored car and the BMW Isetta, which strongly deserves its terrible score. Next up is the cool factor. Once again, before this video, only 1 car had ever gotten a 10 in this category, and that was the Ferrari F40. This time, 3 more cars get the perfect score. The Porsche Carrera GT and the new Ford GT are among the coolest cars on the road, and they need no explanation. The Lamborghini LM002, meanwhile, may be subject to some debate, but this is a car I've always thought was insanely cool and one of the few cars that would even make me, who's seen everything and driven everything, stop whatever I was doing and turn my head. It's also hard to get a 9 in cool factor, but the Mercedes SLR, the 2005 Ford GT, the Lamborghini Diablo 6.0, and the Aventador SV did just that. At the bottom of the list, you might notice nothing scored below a 6. That's no surprise. By hand-picking 22 cars, I specifically picked some of the coolest, and be honest, even the Yugo and the Isetta are pretty cool. The only car I picked that's truly uncool is the Murano Cross Cabriolet. Yes, the Yugo is a bad car, and the Trabant is a bad car, but when I see them at shows, I always smile and laugh. The Cross Cabriolet makes me laugh for an entirely different reason. because I'm making fun of the driver. Still, it doesn't deserve a 1 in cool factor, as that's reserved for the very worst. Think Chrysler PT Cruiser. Next up is importance, which measures a car's significance, or put another way, how much you'd want to see the car in a museum if you were creating one. Once again, only the F40 previously had a perfect 10 in this category, and only one new car gets a perfect 10 this time, the Carrera GT. If this category went up to 11, the Carrera GT would be that 11, the very last analog supercar that will probably ever exist in history. There are also some 9s here, and yes, that includes the Trabant. It's a horrible car with a horrible driving experience, but it's hard to explain how truly important that car was to families in East Germany and elsewhere during the Cold War. It deserves a spot in any car museum, period. The Yugo also scores highly here for its importance, both as a cheap car in the 1980s and as a punching bag for car critics ever since. And as for the lower scores, well, what a shock. The Murano Cross Cabriolet finds itself at the bottom again, where it belongs. Add it all up, and here's our new chart of weekend DougScores. This one highlights all the new additions, and this one shows what it looks like now. Yes, there's a new weekend DougScore champion in the Porsche Carrera GT, earning a 48 out of 50, amazingly close to a perfect score. Of course, there are a few other notable finishes here. For example, the new Ford GT tied the F40, an amazing 47 out of 50. The Huracan and the 488 Spider end up neck and neck at 44 and 43, with the Huracan 1 point ahead, and both beat out our previous modern supercar champ, the Audi R8 V10 Plus. On the low end, the BMW Isetta somehow tied with my old Range Rover, which says a lot about how much fun my old Range Rover is to drive. And the Murano Cross Cabriolet brings up the rear with a mere 11 out of 50, a truly horrible, awful score, which, of course, it deserves. By the way, these charts are getting pretty big now, so if you go into the video description, you'll see links to images where you can look at them more easily. Anyway, now on to the daily category, starting with features. I've never given out a 10 for features before, but I have now, and it goes to the Tesla Model X. Debate it all you want, but I was reserving a 10 for a car with something truly innovative, and Tesla's autopilot is truly amazingly innovative. In 50 years, when all cars drive themselves, we'll look back on the Model X as patient zero, the first car that really brought this technology to the mainstream. And those gull-wing doors help too. Following closely behind is the Ford Raptor, with tons of new tech and cool features, while the cars at the bottom are the usual fare. Next up is the comfort category, which I've renamed from luxury in order to try to better explain what it's actually referring to. Before this video, I'd only given out one 10 in comfort to the Rolls-Royce Wraith, but now I'm giving out a second one to the amazingly serene and pleasant 1996 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur. That car may not handle well or accelerate quickly or be very reliable, but it truly feels like you're driving on a cloud. The Bentley Bentayga comes up just behind it, no surprise, with the very bottom of this category being reserved for the harshest and most painful cars. That would be the Isetta and the Ferret, of course, but also the new Ford GT, the Lamborghini Diablo 6.0, the Carrera GT, and the Aventador SV. Next up is the quality category, which measures both reliability and quality of materials. I've never given out a 10 in this category, and I'm not starting now, though the Bentley Bentayga and Porsche Carrera GT come really close with 9s, tying only the Lexus LFA and Porsche 911R from earlier videos. The Aston Martin DB11 is just behind, as is the Huracan and the 488 Spider, still engaged in a death match for the highest DougScore. Several of the cars with lower scores are obvious, but I've also got the Ferrari F355 down there. Its materials are nice, but not amazing, and its real problem is its reliability issues. It's one of the least reliable modern cars you'd actually want to own. Also low on this list is the Tesla Model X, which has relatively unknown reliability, but more importantly, some really questionable panel fitment issues that weren't unique to the one I drove, as they've also been mentioned by many others. Next up is Practicality, which is mainly based on cargo volume, and this is where the Model X shines, easily earning a 10 out of 10 with its maximum of 88.1 cubic feet. The Bentayga and Raptor also scored high here, no surprise, with virtually every other car earning a below-average score. Also no surprise, considering the cars involved. Worst among the lot were the Isetta, of course, given that it only has one door and nowhere to put anything, the Plymouth Prowler, which has almost no trunk space at all, and the new Ford GT, which almost deserves a 0 here. I mentioned its horrible cargo capacity when I reviewed it, but Ford hadn't yet published its cargo volume figure at the time. Well, they've published it now, and it's 0.4 cubic feet. 0.4. A Toyota Camry has 37 times more cargo space than a 2017 Ford GT. If you're thinking about traveling somewhere in your new Ford GT, taking it on a road trip, don't. Finally, we get to value, where I've still never given out a perfect 10, and that remains true with this video. The Porsche 996 C4S comes closest, as it deserves to, since it offers excellent performance and Porscheability for obscenely affordable money. Other cars that scored high were the Ford Raptor, which is really a go-anywhere, do-anything vehicle for not that much money, and the Porsche Carrera GT and the 2005 Ford GT, two cars whose values shot up and have since come back down. Buy these now because they'll both be $5 million in 20 years, and they'll all be tucked away in museums and climate-controlled garages. On the low end, it's the Aston Martin DB11 that ties the Murano Cross Cabriolet for my lowest score. I love the DB11, but let's be honest, Aston Martin depreciation is absolutely crazy, worse than virtually any other brand, and if you buy this car and own it for just a few years, you're going to lose huge money, more than anything else on this list, which makes it easy to give it a 3 in this category. Anyway, add it all up and we get to the total daily score. Here it is with all the new cars highlighted, and here it is in its regular form, and once again there are some new champions. In fact, there are 3 new daily DougScore winners, all tied for first place: the Ford F-150 Raptor, the Tesla Model X, and the Bentley Bentayga. They each deserve it, as they're all cars I'd love to get in and drive every single day, regardless of weather or road quality or how many people I had to carry or how much stuff I was bringing along. Most other cars didn't do so well in the daily category, but the truly stunning number is the Isetta. After receiving the minimum score of 1 in features, comfort, practicality, and quality, remember it broke down on me during the video, along with a 4 in value, since they're more expensive than you might think, it received a mere 8 out of 50 in the daily categories. This proves the DougScore is working brilliantly, since I can't imagine a car I'd less want to drive every single day. Also, one other note, look closely and you'll see the 488 Spider finished the daily categories 1 ahead of the Huracan. These cars are in an amazingly tight race. And that race concludes here with the DougScore. Now, this is a lot of data, so just remember you can click below to see it in an image file. Yes, we have a new DougScore champion. The Porsche Carrera GT earns a 72 out of 100, placing it at the top, above everything else, which makes sense as I truly believe it's the greatest car ever made. The death match between the Ferrari 488 and the Lamborghini Huracan, it ends in a tie, with both cars getting an amazing DougScore of 71. The interesting thing is that the Huracan has a slightly higher weekend score, while the 488 has a slightly higher daily score, but they combine for the same total, which I think perfectly defines these two. Next up with the 70, yes, that's the Bentley Bentayga. I know a lot of people don't like the Bentayga, but if I could daily drive any car in the world, it would be that one. And its really high score here reflects its amazing performance and its incredible comfort and its daily driving capabilities. You may think it's ugly, and remember I only gave it a 5 for styling, but it's a truly amazing all-around car. Also very high is the Tesla Model X, which was hurt only by its styling and its quality, though I suspect a P100D model would find itself here in first place. The old Ford GT is also high on this list, higher than the new one in fact, because it's simply more drivable every day. And then bringing up the rear, we have the usual suspects: the Yugo, the Murano Cross Cabriolet, the Ferret, the Trabant, and the Isetta, which earned the lowest score I suspect I will ever give out. And so that's the DougScore. I had scored 22 cars before, and with this new group of 22, that brings the total to 44 cars, and there are a lot more to come. Now it's your turn. You can go argue with me. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I a complete idiot? You tell me what you think, because Doug is the type of guy to give cars a DougScore.